Now we're going to go with the live demo excitement of the audio engine, because it is a voice game. Of course, sound and any sound input would be very important to treat correctly, and FX did an awesome job to really get it done. So maybe you can show it to you.
Okay, so yeah, about audio in this game, you understood that this game is pretty much all about audio, because the voice will be your main input for creating bubbles. Actually, bubbles are the visual representation of what you'll be recording with your voice, and then you will be able to tweak the bubble to change its properties, and then you can interact with other audio elements in the environment. So, of course, it's kind of a dream for an audio designer to be in that kind of setup where audio is very important. So my first reaction was, yeah, it's super cool. And my second reaction was, okay, but how do we do that? Because, of course, it's not like the typical way of doing audio for games. Most of the time, audio in games just play back sounds that have been implemented into the software. So here we're talking about live input. We're talking about playing live with that live input. So it's like double live input.
Which I was going to say was another reason we kind of were apprehensive about Unity, because Unity doesn't think Plex exists. So.
Yeah. So Unity has kind of trouble using live input, but actually there is no audio engine that really does it at the moment, because obviously it's a quite recent idea. Before the DS, basically there was no voice input in games. Now there is of course, iPhone and smartphones and Kinect, but all these peripherals are pretty recent, so there is very few games that have explored this kind of idea, and therefore there is really not so many things about this in audio engines. So first of all, we spent some time exploring the different existing audio engines like Wise or Fmod or the Unity built-in audio engine to realize that they weren't doing what we wanted to do. And finally, we decided to go with Pure Data, and you can see that wonderful patch, Pure Data patch on the screen. So what's Pure Data?
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. What's Pure Data? It's a programming language designed specifically for audio, where you can, it's a graphical language, so you just like use objects and draw wires to connect different objects, and then you can pretty much build whatever you want. So I'm gonna make a little demonstration, and I'm gonna need a volunteer. So,
guinea pig.
Anybody wants to?
We should use Bart.
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 You just have to make it.
Woo! Oh, yippee!
That's Mario doing it.
Let's see what it does. Okay, so we have that sound, and we're supposed to see the sound here, but we don't. You know, it's always like this, you test it like 10 times, it's perfect. And, but then, what can you do with that right now? I can change the pitch. Higher or lower. I can change the length of the sound, make it longer. Shorter. Of course, the pitch and the length are independent, so it can be shorter and lower, or shorter and higher, or whatever.
Which is mathematically impressive.
Yes, mathematically impressive, and we didn't have to take care of it.
Yes.
I can also play with there is an there is an effect applied to the sound, so I can put a lot of effect in it, like this, or have it completely dry. Also, there is a pitch analysis. Here you can see he has done a lot of different notes. So the program can get the pitch of what you're doing and then see if it matches, for example, the pitch of some other sound in the environment. There is a volume analysis also. So if you need to do a bubble that has some strengths, specific strengths to go somewhere in the environment, you can. And you can also apply an envelope. This is the... What? Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. There's the sound. All right. Yeah.
That's what we were looking for when we were doing the voice input into Victoria Data when you first started.
I can also play with the sound over time, like having the attack do a long attack or a long release. Basically using this, you can do pretty much whatever you want, record something live, and then the idea is to use the touch screen to change the properties of the bubble, and you're gonna hear the result. And if the properties of the bubble and of the sound matches the one of the object in the environment, the ripple, then you can solve the different puzzles.
No, we haven't gotten to that yet.
That is a big problem.
I'm the audio programmer for this project, and basically what I had to do was get the iPad to talk to pure data through Unity. So that's like telling somebody speaking English to speak Jamaican patois to somebody who speaks Cockney.
We're getting there.
You want to talk to Martin Peach because he's in the basement and he does a lot of development for pure data. So
Yeah.
if there's any issues, he might be.
Well, like the pure data development wasn't really the problem. It was getting the three to talk to each other. So yeah, that was basically it. And after that, we'd be able to get, through Unity, we'd be able to get the interaction in Unity to do stuff with that, and get pure data to talk to Unity so that it would change the bubbles and stuff.
Right.
That's the big challenge
But
facing.
this is all really useful because this is one of the things about tag being this cross between whatever on earth Jason does and fine arts and game people, and so one of the things is that we have other projects with people wanting to connect Unity to Max and his Peach or Pure Data or whatever.
Well,
so like you solve it for us, and then
well, the nice thing is Pure Data is basically like one of the few things I found, and they do have tests for iPad where you can just do Pure Data. If we were only doing the thing in Pure Data, it would work.
Yeah.
Except we have to talk to Unity also.
But that's the problem. There's a couple of other people who have the same problem, so
Yeah.
it would be great to have a.
You are sick here.
No more pressure.
Your code is going to be open. People will
Yeah, I'll put it on GitHub after you look at it, so it's nice. But yeah, so basically the project became Objective-C talking to FX, but that part's taken care of, so I don't have to worry about talking to Pure Data. I just have to worry about taking what Pure Data is saying and making it talk to iPad so that it talks to Unity and so that Unity talks to iPad. Not that much. It's easy on paper, but
You have the whole Christmas holidays.
yeah, whatever. Don't need those.
And you have so much OT on yours.
Whether it represents an insurmountable impasse, I guess.
No,
we'll
it's
see.
not insurmountable. That's the thing. It's not insurmountable. It's more of one of those things where you're like walking blind in the forest, and then you walk into a tree, and you're like, oh, how big is this tree? Okay, keep walking. Smack.
So thanks, FX.
Thank you. And another thing FX didn't talk about, but it is the fact that the microphone from the iPad is not too good.
Yeah.
So it was important to get really good filters because we're going to be able to hear what we just said. So it's important so that it does not sound too bad.
And we should mention that
the different qualities we're capturing out from the voice affect the qualities of the bubbles they're creating in the gameplay. So it's important to detect these features of the voice.
It turns out that samples from Bart actually made for a very difficult to play game.
You broke the game.
Sorry. But we imagine it, I think, as a rather immersive game once you're in it. So we're probably going to encourage people. I think one of the first things will be to encourage people to put on headphones with a mic and sort of play it that way.
Not in the subway. They will be able to do that. It's their dust.
We should make a subway game. We never do that.
A game that you have to play very publicly and excitedly in the subway.
Call it Tourette's.
But two of the basic audio issues that were mentioned at the very first meeting to avoid, one was that sustained, having to make sound all the time to play a game, which gets very, well, basically you run out of breath and it gets very tiring. And the other was the problem of ambient noise, right, getting in the way. And so those are, I think, so far we've avoided those two things.
Well, that's the other good thing about Pure Data. It's a digital signal processing program, so it doesn't only do audio, it can also do video, but as far as programming and talking to other programs with it is concerned, it's only audio right now. But since it does do digital signal processing, you could potentially just filter out the noise with Pure Data alone.
Actually, my approach was to never use the raw sound of your voice. As you've heard, there is always some kind of effect applied to it. So it gives that kind of feeling that you're underwater. I mean, all sounds are going to be treated such as, just like if you heard them being underwater, with all those kind of effects, filters. And so it goes with the aesthetic of the game, but at the same time it allows me to get rid of all that noises that have been recorded at the same time as your voice and create some sonic landscape, interesting sonic landscape.
Yeah, later we'll be putting the actual, he made some really cool sounds. We'll be putting in on speakers, so when you're talking, we'll be able to hear them. So have a taste of what the game's going to sound like.